Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Cameron, and it is so nice to have you guys here on our first edition of Sinner Reacts. So today, first, let me just jump into a little background of how I got into this. I am currently on a fast. I know it's not something really meant to publicize or whatever, but I'm on a fast, and so God is like directing me in what he's called me to do, and so I'm like being obedient. So also what that means is my ears it's into the heavenly street, right? It's into the spirit. So God just kind of whispered to me, do Sinner Reacts, because I like hairdresser reacts. I think they're cool, and I see people have done other spin-offs. So when God gave me that, I was like, okay, well, why can't we have one? So today we're gonna be reacting to the Sarah Jakes Roberts Just Enough Faith sermon, and I'm so excited for this one because I love Sarah, and she has been such an instrumental part of my coming to Jesus, walk with God type of conversations, and just how much my life has changed. And so I appreciate it. So just a little background also on me. I am 22 years old. I'm from Houston, Texas, and hey, I'm a born again believer. How about that? All right, so let's jump into the video.
I've been praying, man. I'm so excited about this word. I don't know if there's anyone out there when you just know that you received something from God. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a message, maybe it's a piece of art, whatever it is, when you just know it's from God and that it's going to bless people. It makes you so excited. So I don't want to delay this any longer. I'm going to get right into the word.
Look, I can so relate to that. When you just know it's from God, you just know it's from God. Like this series, okay, you just know.
Matthew 14. Jesus begins walking on water towards the disciples in the middle of a storm. And Peter does something so strange and so odd in the middle of this encounter. And it inspired me so much when I read this message that I wanted to share it with you. I'm going to start in verse 28.
Yeah, when you know it's from God, you just know it. Like there are some things that still small voice just won't let go, okay? It'll be all up in your ear, in your dreams, and your thoughts, everything. This right here, this series is an example of that. Okay, so like she was saying, she's in Matthew 14:28. I want to give like my top 3 or 4 points that stuck out to me, and then you guys definitely go and watch the entire sermon and then leave comments down below.
His hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Why did you doubt? I think that is a question I've been asking myself over and over again, especially during this time, is why are you doubting? And God gave me an answer that I can't wait to share with you.
Okay, I feel like that's a great question. So she originally filmed this sermon back in 2020, and I believe it was the end of it was 11 months ago. Ooh, wow, child. This was the beginning. So I'm filming this in March of 2021. So this was in the very beginning of, do you struggle with doubting? Like, is that something that you actively struggle with? I know that I'm just now getting through that. Like all of 2020 for me was like, God, but I want to control it. Like, I feel like that was the conversation I was having with God the whole year. Like, well, why is it not going my way? Why is the timing taking so long? Why? And that is a product of doubting. That's a way that it showed up in my life. And so I feel like this series was like, this sermon was made for me. Like the first time I watched it through, I was like, ooh. So let's keep going.
I want to talk to you guys tonight about the subject of just enough faith. Just enough faith. That is a phrase that I've been hearing in my personal prayer and study time. And if I'm honest, when I think about having just enough faith, it makes me feel a little bit less than, like perhaps I'm failing, because whether or not we like to admit it or not, there are moments when we don't have this abundant faith, right? I don't have this super faith that I see everyone else having. I know what it's like to have just enough faith.
If that's not the most real statement that I think a Christian can make, sometimes all you have is just enough. Like last year, literally, okay, I'm like still traumatized a little bit by 2020. If we can just be honest, if you're there, please put in the comments down below, like, I'm still triggered, okay? I live in Texas. We had this whole snow tundra that came through. I'm still triggered. And sometimes just enough faith, like my family, we're going through a lot of legal battles. I lost my mom a couple years ago, so we're still like dealing with that and healing with that, just not even just on like an emotional level and spiritual level, but just like in a practical real life, like day to day in the physical level as well. And so still being in that, it can be taxing. Like, do you ever get weary in things? I feel like that's where just enough faith comes in. Like, I got just enough faith to watch sermons on Sundays. You know, like I went through that season, especially towards the end of last year. Like, if I'm being honest, like towards October to November, and even into December, I was like at just enough. And then like God sent me a conversation with somebody and it got me back on the right track. But like when I was in that, I literally had just enough to watch on Sundays. And I mean, watch, like not really participate. Like, yeah, I would pray, yeah, I would get through. But I normally wake up at 5. I like to do Bible study, and I was just not at the level that I normally was. And so, man, that weariness is real. It is so real. And if you're there right now, like, all I can say is, 1, God's gonna come get you, but 2, keep praying. Don't lose your prayer life. Do not lose your prayer life. That's your connection to God. Like, that's literally, I mean, of course we have Jesus that stands in the gap, but talk to them. If you don't talk to them, it's like going ghost on somebody. Don't go ghost on God, period. All right, let's keep going.
Admit it or not, there are moments when we are running the race and we run out of faith. The thing about running this race and what it says in Hebrews 12:1, it says that the race has been set before us. The race doesn't wait until we're ready to run it before the race gets set. The race doesn't wait until we have enough endurance. The race has already been set. And now it is on us to determine whether or not we're going to be able to run that race the way that God has called us to run the race, or are we going to stay there and be stagnant? What do you do when you are thrown into an unexpected race?
If I don't know that from literally from the top of my head to my tip of my toes, like, if I don't know that statement, you can't. God gives everybody, how do I want to say this? God gives everybody a race, like she was saying. Everybody has their own race. And that's why, as a quick side note, it's so important not to compare your journey to somebody else's, because your race, y'all ain't got the same races. You know what I mean? Your race might have 2 hurdles at this point. Next person may have 10 hurdles at this point. Like, that's for real, no cap. So if you're at a place right now where, or if you've ever been in a place, if you can relate to this statement, let me know. But having to deal with things that just don't make sense, having to deal with things that just, you're like, I didn't deserve this. If you're being honest, if you're really being honest, like, those are difficult. Sometimes you get handed a race that's like, I don't want it. I don't want it, bro. I don't want it. And I feel like it's okay to be human to say, and this is just my personal opinion, like, this is Sinner Reacts, okay? Sinner Reacts. I'm not saying this is right, but I feel like it's okay to be human enough to say, I don't want this race. But then to allow God to guide you through the race is the second step. Like it's a compound sentence. You guys remember that in English classes, 7th grade? Amen. It's a compound sentence. It's okay to say, I don't want this race, but I know God will see me through. I don't want this race, but I know God is good enough to bless me through it and on the other side. I don't want this race, but I'm gonna make it through. That's so real. Like, this is a series, this is a sermon literally about that. And I know that, period. Like, I know that. What else is gotta say? So that was one of my main points that I really loved about this, was just allowing yourself to relate to that and to have that human moment, but then also to allow the supernatural to go beyond that and allow God to fill in the spaces that you feel insufficient in. Like, I don't feel like I have enough strength, but God does. I don't feel like I have enough grace, but God does. I don't feel like I have enough patience. How about that? But God does. And then taking in what He has in abundance for you. That's prayer life. Come on, Tamara, preaching.
But I wasn't prepared to be in this race. I wasn't prepared to be fighting for my health. I wasn't prepared to be fighting for my marriage. I'm in a race that I was never prepared for. And sometimes we get angry that God sets us in these races that we weren't prepared for. Father, I wasn't prepared to transition like this overnight. I wasn't prepared for the world to change overnight. I got placed in this race and I feel like everything is zooming past me. But I want to prophesy to you tonight that God does not set the race without giving you the endurance to run the race first. I feel that for you. I don't know who you are, but I want you.
No, bro, that's so real. That's so real. That's so real. And it does not feel like that when you're in the race all the time. And that's okay. And that's okay. It's okay that it doesn't always feel like I have everything I need to get through it, but you do. Just let it sit there. Just let it sit there. But you do have it though. You may not want to get up, you may be depressed. And I know this season of life, especially if you're watching this like in the middle of 2020, 2021 time era, and I don't know what's to come, so it may be even more relevant in the future. Even if you're depressed, even if you're having a hard time getting out of bed, even if you're struggling in this department or the next, you do have what it takes to get out of this predicament. And God will do it.
Flow the way I have set up for you to flow. And so Jesus pulls Peter in close. And Peter starts getting excited. Because now that he has been pulled in close, he recognizes that I can pick up on what I've been pulled into. I can pick up what I've been pulled into. When you get pulled into something, there's a grace for you to pick up the overflow. If there's any overflow connected to what's in the room, you can pick it up because you got pulled in close enough. So when we see Jesus.
I love that. I love that. And I think what that speaks to outside of just this sermon is that get inside of community. Especially in your place, if you're weary in your faith, for real, don't fight that battle alone. Do not.
To come to where you are. Jesus, if it's really you, you don't have to make the storm stop. Jesus, if it's really you, you don't have to make the wind stop blowing. But Jesus, if it's really you, I want you to call out a version of me that I don't even know that is down in there. When you get desperate enough to start saying, Jesus, if this is really you, there is a version of me that could lay low and be scared. But if it's really you, you could speak a word and pull out a version of me that can do things I never thought was possible. I dare you to start getting crazy enough in the middle of the storm, in the middle of all hell breaking loose, in the middle of the wind blowing, to say, Jesus, if you're anywhere in the midst of this, if you're anywhere in the midst of what's happening in this world, then call out a version of me who can do things I would never think that I was able to do. Speak a word that calls me out of my comfort.
Bro, that's so real. Ooh. Just let that marinate. Just let that marinate. Just let that marinate. Just let it marinate. That's all you need. I feel like she spoke what she needed to speak. Period. I feel like she spoke what she needed to speak. That's it. Do I have anything else to say? I don't think so. Okay, let's keep going.
Using all of the faith you have. This season is going to require all of the faith that you have, even if it doesn't seem abundant, even if it doesn't seem like it's enough. I hear God saying that you have just enough faith. Take that just enough faith and exhaust it. Take that just enough faith and throw it in the direction of what I'm doing. Why? Because if you take that faith that seems like it's not enough, but it's just enough, then God can show you what he can do with just enough faith. No one will ever be able to take from Peter the fact that he stood on water.
You better pause right there. Your just enough gives you a testimony. Your just enough will see you through. I know I said that already, but like, this is for real for somebody out there. Like, I know you may watch this series and be like, oh yeah, that's good. That sounds like it's on a high. I am a testimony myself. But just enough is all you need. And besides that, it allows you to build trust that God will come get you. It gives you a testimony that God, okay, even when I was out there floating on the water, Lord, I was struggling. Lord, I was falling. Lord, I was gonna give up. Lord, I didn't have much left to fight. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like you were running on E. God came in and picked you up. That's a testimony. But that's just enough faith. That's just enough faith. Man, I ain't got no gas in the car, but I'm still go. You know what I mean? Like that's, okay, don't literally do that. Don't literally do that. It's a metaphor, but still.
Begins to sink. He has just enough faith to say, Lord, save me. I wonder what would happen in our lives, in our homes, in our finances, in our marriages, if we realize that running out of faith shouldn't make you silent. Maybe Peter didn't have.
That's the part right there. 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 That Lord save me is your prayer life. I'm telling you, if you're on your last leg, baby girl, if you're on your last leg, child of God, if your bank account is on E, that's that just enough faith to say, God save me. Don't try to fight battles alone that are intended, come on, let me say that again, intended for you to fight with God. Sometimes God will put you through things just to show you how faithful he is. How about that? Sometimes God will allow you to walk through a storm to show you that he'll bring you to the other side. So what if you're in a season right now where that's your story? And if that's not your story in this season, send it to somebody who is in that season, because that season is rough. Man, I'm walking through it right now. It's rough. It's rough. It's rough. It's rough. And it's okay to acknowledge the fact that it's rough. But it's also necessary to acknowledge the fact that God has already given you the victory. And that's all I have to say on that. So as we come to the first end of the Sinner Reacts, come on, Sinner Reacts. It's the first one. So as we come to the end of the first one, I just want to say, definitely go watch the first sermon, like the actual sermon itself. This is just a, commentary / small group / sis in the pew trying to talk to you / you know what I mean? Like, this is such a derivative of it, and you definitely should give it the value of going to watch it. I know God will speak to you through it as he spoke to me. Again, I'm not a preacher. I'm just a child of God being obedient. So if there's any areas of your life that you need to be obedient, make sure you work on those this week and just say yes. And I'm so grateful to be here. Again, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. I so appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.